Hello there and welcome to my video. This is Cody and I'm here to break down what's been going on with Bitcoin in the last week. We're also going to be talking about what to expect in this week coming up and some end of the year expectations for the Bitcoin price according to Bitcoin options. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to share the video and follow me on X as well. Bitcoin has been on an absolute tear. Last 7 days, we're up almost 16%. And in fact, right now, we're slipping into the greed part of the fear and greed index, which usually signifies that we're coming near a local top or we're starting to have an exhaustion of buyers set in. But I want to touch more upon that a little bit later. First, we're going to go right into our chart TA. So Bitcoin right now has been on a very steep uptrend. I've drawn in here the uptrend, this huge, nice little up channel we have here, going all the way down from 26,600 all the way up to where we are right now at about 35K. And we've seen in that time, a time of about month or so, Bitcoin rise almost 30%. So Bitcoin has been on an absolute tear. There's no doubt about how incredibly strong buyer pressure has been for Bitcoin. If we take a look at the RSI, we can see here that it's actually at 82, which is very high, extremely overbought right now for the Bitcoin price. And in the near term, I expect that we're going to wind up getting a little bit more sideways to down in the near term within the next week or so. I think that we're actually going to pull back a little bit. I do think that it's going to come back and retest this 33K level of support right now, because really what it comes down to is the fact that this is extreme. The buying pressure is extreme, okay? When we talk about market cycles, we like to realize the fact that market cycles have two different parts. And much like a pendulum, when it swings in one direction, it builds momentum. And then as it comes back the other direction, you tend to see an increase in momentum in the other direction as well. So I am expecting a bit of a pullback for Bitcoin. We've seen extreme buying right now. We're probably going to wind up going back to neutral for a bit, and then we may see a little bit of selling as well. But that being said, in the near term, within the next couple of months, I do expect that the buying pressure is going to continue to build ahead of the halving, which we're expecting is going to probably wind up happening in April or May of next year. All right, so the level that we're looking at right now for Bitcoin to overcome is actually about 35K. That's the level we're looking at for resistance. If we go ahead and put in I'm going to go ahead and put in a trend line that kind of indicates a resistance, that red trend line here. I'm going to change the color. Then we can see that we're right at that point. Now, I've drawn in several of these trend lines. I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. But what it comes down to right now is that Bitcoin needs to, if it's going to stay within this uptrend, it absolutely has to blast through that resistance here at 35K and then move higher. But as I said before, most likely we're going to wind up seeing it move sideways to down in the coming week. I do think that we're going to wind up getting that retest, that 33K. We could actually get a pullback even lower than that, but for now, I'm going to say we're going to probably come back to 33K before making our next move up, okay? Now, I also want to go ahead and talk about the dollar index real quick. Dollar index has been really weak, all right? The dollar index, the strength of the dollar compared to other currencies just has not been able to push past this resistance here at 107. We've seen it just kind of move sideways. We haven't really seen much action here, and I do expect that the dollar is going to continue to break down, especially as it just cannot seem to overcome this resistance. Now, if it does go above 107, that's a different story. It's going to put pressure on Bitcoin, so this is another level I think that's really important to watch, that 107 resistance level here. And then the last Bitcoin related chart TA I want to talk about, which is very important, is what's going on with Bitcoin dominance, okay? Bitcoin dominance has been on tear, just like with Bitcoin. We've seen it push past resistance here at about 52%, and it's climbed in the last month all the way up to 54%. Now, to put this into context, we go and zoom out. We have to go all the way back to where we were back in April of 2021 to find a Bitcoin dominance percentage that's that high. Now, this means several different things, okay? What it means is that, again, we're starting to see strong demand for Bitcoin ahead of the halving that we're going to be having in the April and May of next year. And on top of that, we've seen a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the crypto markets. We've seen altcoins do okay, but not nearly as well as Bitcoin has been doing. And Bitcoin is retaining a large share of the market for the crypto market cap. Right now, we're looking at a resistance level of about 54%. And this resistance level would actually put it in line with back to what we saw back in March of 2019. Okay, now if you guys remember March of 2019, we saw a nice little run up ahead of the halving in 2020, and then after the halving happened back here in about April, May, June, in that area right here, we saw the price move up a little bit, or the dominance move up a little bit here to about 71%, and then it came all the way down as we hit the bull market down here. Okay, so that marked the beginning of altcoin season. So we're likely to see something like this happen yet again, where we have the Bitcoin dominance run up all the way up to the halving, and then as the next bull market starts, we're going to wind up seeing it move lower as altcoin season begins. Okay, so we're definitely on track to hit the very similar kind of cycle that we've seen for Bitcoin in the past. Now, I also want to go ahead and talk about the futures as well. So futures, we talked about back when about the 23rd or so of October, we had this large number of short liquidations in the futures market, and that propelled the price even higher, all the way up to about 35K. Now we're starting to see not much happening in the time between then. We've actually started to see open interest fall dramatically because, again, all those shorts got flushed out of the market. Now we're starting to see them build a bit again here in the past couple of hours. And what's going on here is that we're starting to see a larger number of buyers come in and aim for these long contracts. So they're long. They are net long right now on these futures contracts. And longs are betting, are strong. They're dominant, and they're betting on a continued move to the upside as the momentum will push Bitcoin higher. So that's what we're looking at right now. Now, that being said, if we're going back to 33K, which I do think we are, I think that we're going to wind up seeing a large liquidation of longs in the future. So that could wind up contributing to a further price decline. Again, a nice little dip before the next rip higher. So that's something you guys should definitely watch out for. Longs are dominant, longs are strong, and longs are building their current position. Now, if we take a look at the updated liquidation heat map, we can start to see that we're actually starting to see some new liquidation levels, okay? So before, when I was showing you guys this map, there was basically nothing above where Bitcoin was, about 35K. We can zoom in here a little bit. We can see that we're actually starting to see a decent amount of these liquidity levels. We're starting to see here at about 35 or so, 38.8. Is what we're seeing for the largest amount of that. So now we're starting to see some actually appear as a lot of these shorts start to rebuild their positions. Now we still see the largest amount of liquidity, however, below here at about 33.8. So if we come down past 33, we're definitely going to wind up hitting these liquidation levels. And we are actually still closer, though, I would say, to these short liquidations here at 38.9 than we are to the significant long liquidations at 34,000. Okay, so there's a little bit more room to the upside that Bitcoin could run before it actually makes that pullback. Now, I want to go ahead and put this into a context for the monthly gains for Bitcoin. Now, when we talked about the Bitcoin monthly returns previously, we said that if we have a strong month in September, or even a green month in September, that's usually followed up by strong gains in October. We've seen that multiple times so far with the Bitcoin price, and that would also translate. If we have strong gains in October, we're also likely to have strong gains in November as well. We've seen times which Bitcoin's gone up 47% October, 53% in November, up 33% in October, and 19% in November as well. And in this case, back in 2013, up 60% and up 449% in November. Now, this is probably not going to happen. We're probably not going to ever see Bitcoin jump that much in a single month, but it does give us an idea that if October is strong, November is most likely going to be strong as well. The only exception to that was back here in 2021, where we went up almost 40%, and we actually went down about 7% in that November. Now, as a reminder, Bitcoin has been one of the best performing assets over the past year, and even over the last month, we've seen the NASDAQ, which some people say that Bitcoin should be tracking the NASDAQ because it's speculative technology, but it has been outperforming the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is down over 3%, in fact, over 3.5% over the last month, whereas Bitcoin is up 28% in the last month. Okay, so we've seen a really nice divergence from the NASDAQ 100 compared to and tech stocks from Bitcoin. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the CME Group Bitcoin Futures volume. All right, so what's going on here is the CME Group is providing these Bitcoin futures services for traditional finance. Okay, so people who don't want to go and actually buy the Bitcoin on exchanges and then transfer them to a wallet. Instead, they're playing futures. So these traditional institutional players, right, who don't have access to buying Bitcoin on a regular exchange, they're actually using CME Group, and they're coming through and they're buying these futures contracts. So what we've seen here, according to CME Group, is a large increase in the number of both volume, so for just the contracts themselves, and open interest for these contracts increase over the last month. You can even see here that after about the 19th of October, we saw a large spike in the number of these contracts being purchased. And so what this means to me is that institutional players right now are really getting heavily into Bitcoin. The demand is incredibly strong on the backs of speculation that a Bitcoin spot ETF is going to be coming. And I did say it's only a matter of time until we see that Bitcoin spot ETF. But we're starting to see very strong demand, at least in the futures market. Now, when we get that Bitcoin spot ETF, we're going to see an even better take on how much demand there is for Bitcoin with traditional institutions, institutional buyers that don't want to go on Coinbase or Binance and actually buy the Bitcoin themselves and put it on a wallet. So this is very interesting. I'll be watching this Bitcoin futures on the CME to see if we can actually, if this momentum will continue, this buying momentum will continue for this foreseeable future. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to economic calendar is the projections for Bitcoin at the end of the year. So what we have here is Deribit options expiry. And for our Bitcoin, we have a large number of options expiring on the 29th of December. In fact, $3 billion worth of call options are expiring on the 29th of December. And then we also have $1.4 billion worth of put options expiring on the 29th of December. Now, this is a tremendous amount of money that's sitting in these options. And the max paying price for that day is sitting at about $28K. So the options market right now is betting on a Bitcoin price by the end of the year at $28K. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Okay, this is speculation, right? We're still almost 2 months away from the end of the year, but this is just important. This is really important information to point out to everybody that they're expecting 28K. Now, as a reminder, Bitcoin is at almost $35,000, $34,700, and they're expecting 28K. So do with that what you will, but those options traders are going to be trying to push the price close to 28K by the end of the year. Now, we're going to go ahead and move on to the economic reports and Fed speakers. All right, very important thing is going on next week. All right, we have the consumer confidence employment cost index on Tuesday. Nothing scheduled for Monday. Wednesday, ADP employment numbers. And we also have the biggest event, the FOMC conference and the decision on interest rates. Okay, I'll be following this up. We'll be talking about that in a future video and my expectations for this. But this is happening next week. Just be aware that it's happening next week, and we're going to see some serious volatility on Wednesday when this decision gets made. Okay, and then Thursday we have jobless claims as well, and Friday we have non-farm payrolls. All right. And hourly wages. So we're going to end up seeing how the jobs market is going to be holding up at this time. Okay, so we have some huge events going on next week, and we have some major options expiry towards the end of the year for Bitcoin. And so it's just going to be prepare yourself for a pretty crazy week coming up here. Again, I'm going to be covering the Fed interest rates, FOMC, and my expectations for that in a future video. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the information I've covered here. If you want to see some more options, you want me to go over this options contracts. And in fact, we have multiple expiries going on in November, and what you guys are actually planning on doing with your Bitcoin. I have not bought any Bitcoin. I am waiting. I am riding this roller coaster all the way up to the top, okay? But that's all I've got for you guys today. I will catch you guys on the next video.